created. We're all coming together because this issue is about human rights. We have the human right to be free from unreasonable searches. We have the human right to due process of law, and we have the human right to not be violated by our elected officials, by the TSA, just because we opt out of a machine that irradiates us. So thank you all for coming. Andy Hogue is going to be our moderator tonight, moderator of sorts. Not much moderation to do because we couldn't get anybody to come and support the body scanners, if you can imagine that. So we have our panelists. He's going to introduce our panelists, and we'll get going from there. So if y'all will give a warm welcome to Andy Hogue.
First of all, thank you very much for occupying a seat and deciding about body scanners. 2, someone who supports them, you're right. And 3, you're opposed to them. But one thing I know is that you're open-minded because you're here. If you were closed-minded about it, you wouldn't be here at all. And let me tell you something, I was covering the legislature for Lone Star over the last 2 sessions. I saw this coming and saw David Simpson do a valiant effort to stop this at pass. He was unsuccessful, but very successful at raising public awareness of this. But they have a very black and white view on the issue of body scanners in airports. Either A, you're for safety, or B, you're against safety. Well, today we're going to discuss some alternatives. We're not just going to express familiar grievances of body scanners and concerns about privacy. We're going to discuss ways we can replace these with something more liberty-friendly and, well, friendly to our bodies. So first of all, let me introduce our panel today. Behind me is Miss Jerry Ward. Let's give her a hand. Jerry is an attorney and the principal of the firm Garlow Ward PC. She is active in the Republican Party. Don't hold that against her. And she's a member of TAG, so that makes up for everything, right? The rule of law is very important to Jerry, and she sees the use of scanners as a violation of that, as well as a usurpation of authority not granted to civil government by God or the U.S. and Texas constitutions. Our next panelist is, I guess, a recent friend of mine. His name is Mr. Norman Horn, soon to be Dr. Horn.
Right on!
PhD in chemical engineering and is co-editor of StopAustinScanners.org. Check it out. He has been active throughout the past legislative session in civil liberties issues, including Representative David Simpson's anti-groping and anti-body scanning bills. Mr. George Ferris will be late. I'll go ahead and read his bio last. But next we have Dr. Laura Presley. Dr. Presley holds a PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Texas at Austin. And get this, not only being in open country there, she has spent 17 years in Austin in the semiconductor industry. Sure, she's here because of our booming tech industry. She has authored and co-authored numerous technical publications and holds multiple U.S. patents on semiconductor processing and device engineering. Dr. Presley is most recently owner and co-founder of Pure Rain Limited Liability Corporation. Her company has developed a proprietary rainwater capture and purification process, and they sell purified, fluoride-free, and chemical-free bottled rainwater to the organic food markets across Texas, such as, but not limited to, Whole Foods and Central Market. And George Ferris from here writes a little about
Johns Hopkins. Yeah, they're great for medicine, right? And NIST, they did something, National Institute for Standards and Technology. But, peel back the curtain for a second. Does the FDA have jurisdiction over dealing with medicine and radiation? No, they deal with food and drugs. Oh, okay, now you think about it and you go, well, that's ridiculous. NIST, does anybody even know what NIST does? NIST deals with standards. They don't deal with medicine and radiation like this. The Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, well, that's completely silly. Even though Johns Hopkins is very well known for medicine, the Applied Physics Laboratory is not. They deal with satellites and surveillance. They do not deal with medicine or radiation at all. So for Napolitano to really make a statement like this and say, look, we've got all these independent tests, oh my goodness, you know, it doesn't hold a lot of weight. these organizations are not capable, nor do they have the jurisdiction to make any ruling on this sort of thing at all. So it renders this statement rather useless to us, and it provides us with no further information. But if you peel back the curtain a little, you find out.
The FDA is not an independent agency. They are still part of the federal government, and they have ties to making sure everybody's all consistent in the message. So the FDA is not independent. Independent would be University of Texas at Austin or Baylor Medical School in Houston, or Harvard Medical School. That's independent. FDA is not independent of the federal government.
And medical devices that utilize radiation for therapeutic or diagnostic reasons are regulated by them, but they're supposed to be regulated for safety. So I do not think in this particular instance that the FDA has done its due diligence with regard to these with regard to these scanners. Because for one thing, to operate medical devices requires a very high level of training. It requires certification for some types. And in fact, there is a very highly specialized profession here in Texas and around the country that operates these kinds of machines that are used for therapeutic and diagnostic reasons, and they're called medical physicists. And these physicists they're not just certified by the state, they're actually licensed, which is a much higher rating, and they must go through much higher levels of training. And the state actually gives the purpose in the regulations for why they highly regulate people who operate machines like imaging equipment, MRIs, or medical devices that use radiation for treatment of cancer. The kinds of radiation we're talking about here with the scanners. And this is what the state says in the regulations. Or physicists, you must be a highly trained professional, and that we will regulate you and we will enact discipline against you if we find you're incompetent. How competent do you think these TSA agents are to operate these machines?
Minimum wage at McDonald's, and they claim.
Is forcing these things into airports, and it is forcing us to be irradiated by these machines. Whether we go through them or not, we have to stand by them if we're going to go through these security lines, and with absolute immunity, with an absolute attitude of passing the buck. When you look back at the history of our country, and also those countries that were the birthplace of our liberty, like Great Britain, the idea of governmental immunity is anathema. I don't know if you remember Charles I in England. He lost his head because he presumed to be above the law. And he was tried and executed as a result. When our country was first formed, they had no thought of giving immunity to government officials for wrongdoing like this. They had no thought that government officials would be above the law. Yeah, what you see right here in this slide is what we've become. An example where we do not hold those who have the greatest authority accountable. And this is the result.
The Electronic Privacy Information Center also found an email from the president of Boston's local transportation security officer union president, ABIA, stating Boston International Airport has an alarmingly high number of cancer-afflicted TSOs. So that means transportation safety.
Use what's called ionizing radiation. That's what X-rays are. Ionizing radiation basically can cause an indirect reaction essentially within your body that has the capability of creating free radicals, which then can indirectly snip your DNA in half, basically. That's how cancer gets started. If you get in very low doses of what would be called hard X-rays, for instance, like what you would get in a, say, you're getting your bones, and you broke a bone and you need to get an X-ray to fix that. That amount of radiation is still significant, but it's not enough to cause significant damage because most of those X-rays pass completely through your body. Now the difference in this case is that The x-rays that are being used here are not hard x-rays, they are soft x-rays. What that means is that they have a lower energy and thus they penetrate less deeply into your skin. And that's how they actually get an image. They're not just looking at your bones when you go through one of these scanners. They're looking at your skin. They're looking at what the surface of your body is like. Now what happens there, though, is that because these are lower energy and they penetrate less, they are absorbed a lot more. So even though the dosage may be simply a little less, you're actually getting a much more concentrated dose, or a much more concentrated.
24 to 30, from this paper, 30 gigahertz, okay? Your phone puts out 3 gigahertz when you're listening to it. Okay, these scanners are 10x higher the frequency. Okay, we've been told by Homeland Security that this is, a fraction of what your phone is putting out. Well, we can't even get the information on the power density. We do know the frequency is 10x higher, okay? There's also issues that it is 10x higher than the wavelength or the frequency of your microwave at your home. Okay, so you're actually walking into a microwave oven. Okay, that's what we're doing. And like Norm said, there's really no health studies that show they're safe. Okay? The other thing is there are sensitive individuals when they go through this equipment, very similar to fluoridation. There are certain groups that are going to be real sensitive. So for the scanners, there's people with skin cancer or breast cancer. This is going to potentially aggravate the surface of the skin, okay, or the breasts. Also, when you walk into these scanners, you should, if you do decide to go through them, please close your eyes when you're being scanned, because your eyes are an exposed organ. Your skin can absorb this radiation, but your eyes, you have the risk of cataracts. Okay, so that's a real concern. Also, people that have piercings, it could heat up the piercings and cause uncomfortableness, because it is, how in your microwave oven you don't want to put metal because the metal will absorb more than the food. Same with these scanners, it's a microwave scanner.
Ability to sue governmental entities for equipment which causes people damages. So is what going to happen, are the taxpayers going to bear the burden of this? So not only have we borne the burden of these giant banks' stupid mistakes, now in the future, are we going to bear the burden for treatment for cancer, for TSA agents?
We are not a bunch of guinea pigs. Because there's no studies, we don't know the sensitivity distribution of our population. Our children, infants, the elderly, who's the most sensitive? People with skin cancer, people with breast cancer, people with implants, cataracts. Who is the sensitive group and who should be excluded from these? There's no information on that. We're treated like a bunch of animals. Where's our sovereignty? Okay? We have a choice.
Think about this. If you go to a doctor's office and you get an x-ray, every time you get it, not only are do you have one of those lead aprons on to make sure that only the part of your body that needs an x-ray gets an x-ray. The doctor wears one too. And these TSA agents are not given adequate protection, and as is evident by Boston Logan Airport.